I'm Laura. So I'm here representing Texas Instruments. And I was just noticing when Yelger gave his presentation, I have no slides on what is TI and what do we do. Does anybody here not know what TI does? Just want to make sure. Okay, good. I was like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't have made that assumption. Please stop me at any point if you've got any questions. Chris started us off saying, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Lucky for me, I'm uncomfortable all the time right now, so you can't make me more uncomfortable. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about is like our journey that we've been on with Texas Instruments and how do we make doing direct business with us as easy as possible. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our TI investments, our TI strategy, our APIs, why APIs, what do we have to offer, how to connect to our APIs, and then common customer feedback, and then how do you get over those roadblocks or obstacles. So first, TI and everything that we went through in the chip shortage, we were battle tested. That's what we like to say. We had way more orders than we could ever fulfill. We were double, triple, quadruple booked, billions of units on order, and we could not ship them all. We could not ship enough, and we made lots of customers very frustrated. So as we come out of that market cycle, this is our time to invest. So what are we going to do? So we want to build a stronger TI, and we think we can do this through our 4 competitive advantages. So products, they are the most important part of the company. So our products need to be designed for diversity and longevity, and that's what we're really known for. You know, we've acquired companies in the past, and we're still producing very, very old parts that maybe we should get rid of, but we won't because people still want to buy them. We have a broad reach of our market channels, and this includes our worldwide sales team. So we have a huge sales organization, our APIs, TI.com, because we want to make a super convenient experience for customers to select, design, and purchase our parts. And then we want a strong foundation of manufacturing and differentiated technology. And there's a lot of investment there because TI, we actually manufacture our own parts. And we spend a ton of money and a ton of R&D resources trying to make our manufacturing great. And then we want to we want to have a shitload, and we do have a shitload of analog and embedded processing parts. So we want to grow with our customers so that we can provide them geopolitically dependable capacity. And we think that that's going to become even more important as the years go on. And people are going to start to tell us, we only want parts that are being built in Texas. We only want parts that are being built in, you fill in the blank. So we want to be ready for whenever that time comes. So semiconductor cycles. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but here's just a graph of what we have observed and where we think it's going. So if you look at the black line, that's the units shipped. And then if you look at the gray line, that's our trend line. So as you look around you and we look around in this room, there's more and more electronics everywhere. And I'm a huge fan of that personally. I would love for my car to drive me around. I don't want to drive myself anywhere. But everywhere I go, I constantly see more electronics. And so even though we're going through a downturn right now, we know it's going to snap back, and we know it's going to snap back in a really big way. And we want to be ready for that. So manufacturing is central to making that a success. So our internal manufacturing strategy, where we are actually doing all of the manufacturing, or as much of the manufacturing as we possibly can, is going to lead us to success. And so why are we doing that? We're investing for our future growth. We're increasing our capacity in the technologies where we can fit more chips per wafer. We want to have sustainable manufacturing. And then if you look at the bottom right, we want to control our own supply chain. So one of the things that we went through in the last few years was if we were using an external manufacturer, basically the conversation was, come to the table and bring your checkbook. How much money do you want to spend? Because that's who's going to get the parts. We would like to never have those conversations ever again. We want to control our supply chain. We want to have that flexibility. And then we also want to dual source ourselves. So if we have one manufacturing plant in Japan building the same thing that we have in Texas, that's best. Because if we've got an earthquake in Japan, we can spin up our Texas manufacturing site and be ready to go within days. So what does our global manufacturing footprint look like? And this is probably really hard for you to see, but the teal is our wafer fabs, and then the black is our assembly and test sites. So we've got a broad, the high level here is we're all over the world. We're global. Now let me talk a little bit about our capacity investments. So we are spending somewhere around $40 billion growing our capacity. So our fab, which is in Richardson, so if you take a look, I actually used to work in this office building for a couple of years. And it's really cool because I would walk over to the fab, and you can look at the window tour, and it's got really, really clean oxygen. So if I needed good ideas, I would just take deep breaths and try to, okay, I'm going to get a good idea here, solve this problem. But what you can look is like super far, like football field lengths, and it's just robots building chips. There's very few people that you see in there, and it's so freaking cool to watch. And so that's the smaller building that you see there. And then that bigger building to the left, that's our Fab 2. So if you think about how many chips we can manufacture in like just one wafer, how many millions of dollars worth of chips are just sitting on one wafer, and the more and more of those that we can output, the better we can respond to the increase in semiconductor demand. So that's our fab. We also are building a new fab in Utah. And then we are building 4 fabs, which are that same size as our Fab 2, the giant building in Sherman. So if you're ever flying in and out of DFW and you're at you hit the right window, you're coming in the right whatever direction, you can actually see it because it's so big you can see it from the airplane, which is pretty incredible. And we can build a ton of parts. That's great. But we also have to assemble and test them. So we need to increase that as well. So we build them, then we assemble and test them. So we've got Chengdu and then 2 AT sites in Malaysia. So all of this to say, we're spending a ton of money, a ton of resources. We want to build more parts. So how does the API fit into our company strategy? You can build a ton of parts and have a ton of parts just sitting somewhere. But how do you plan them? So that's where smart manufacturing comes in. How do we make commitments to our customers to where our customers can believe us? Because over the last couple of years in the chip shortage, we weren't able to tell our customers when we could even get them parts because very few of us even knew when that was going to happen. And then we want to build up 200 days of inventory. So let's say we're going to build a ton of parts, we're going to have a ton of capacity, we're going to plan them a lot better, and we're going to have 200 days of inventory sitting on the shelves. Okay, now, how do we get those parts to the customer? That's where the APIs come in. So our strategy and our focus is APIs, and we want to, as we call it, API everything. So my actual technical role is e-commerce marketing manager at TI, but I've been dubbed the API queen because I'm always talking about APIs with everybody. I'm going out to customers and talking about APIs everywhere as well. So our strategy and what we want to get to is we're going to have parts available. We're going to make great parts. We want to reach as many customers as we can. And we want to do it in the fastest and most efficient way possible, which we think is through APIs. So they are fast communication, and we want to make it super easy to get set up with us, and we want to have 2 channels. So our strategy is the TI store, which is essentially an API version of TI.com, and then backlog. So backlog is you're placing orders out in time. And so we'll have APIs for both of those. So if you've got time and you can wait past your lead time, place an order through our backlog channel. If you don't have time, you're not willing to wait, then you pay more through the TI store because we've got web pricing there, but you can have it immediately available. And we ship in 2 days or less to most countries in the world. So why APIs? And why do we think that this is the best way for our customers? I think I'm selling a little bit to everybody who's already bought in on this, but this is our view. So it's data. It's automated. It's real time. It's integrated directly into the customer system, which will enable customers to make business decisions faster which will then increase their efficiency, and then you can actually buy directly from the material planning system. So if you think about that today and how many customers have worked in the past, let's say that they're spending all their time in whatever planning system that they use. Then they need to go, oh, I need to go find parts. And I'm short on something. Let me go to Octopart. Okay, what does Octopart have? Okay, there's nothing there. Let me go to DigiKey. Let me go to Mauser. Let me go here. Let me go to TI.com. There's lots of different places that they have to go, and that interrupts them from their workflow of doing work. We want to have our easy button built directly into the customer's material planning system. So it becomes a sticky situation for us, because then as many customers have the easy button as possible, they're going to buy more from us. But also we have that transparency of data between us and our customers. So when we have lots of customers out there. They're all constantly asking us a million questions. What is the price? Can I cancel my order? Can I change my order? When's my material going to ship? What's the SPQ? What's the MOQ? So we can answer all of these questions through our APIs. And if you talk a little bit about generative AI and where we want that to go, we actually employ hundreds of people in our support staff to answer support questions like, what is my MOQ? What is my SPQ? So you can use generative AI to answer that question, or the customer themselves could self-service that information through an API, and then they can answer that for themselves, which we still probably will do generative AI for support, which would be really cool. But so that's the reason why, that's how APIs fit into our strategy, fit into our company. Now let me talk a little bit about what specific APIs we have available. So we have 2 suites, and these are suites that are based on ordering only. So as I talked about our strategy we've got TI Store and we've got Backlog. So if you want parts now, immediately available, that's through our TI Store, and that is always at the web price. So you're going to know exactly what the price is going to be, and you're going to get it within 2 days or less, sometimes same day. Now, if you have time and you can wait and you can plan, then that's the Backlog. So I'll talk through each one of these APIs and how they work. So first, TI Store, we've got Order API. So that's placing your order. That makes sense. And you can also get a list of what are all my orders. Then we've got Inventory and Pricing. So what is the TI Store inventory? What is the web price? We've also got some commercial details. We've also added a feature recently that's called Future Inventory. So what is our replenishment plan for those parts? When are we going to get more parts in? And that could be if we have material sitting on our shelves, and also can be if we have nothing. So we will give you an insight into, what is our plans, future replenishment plans. Now, the next one is where the APIs get really, really cool. So Inventory Subscription Push. So what this is a customer can come to us and say, I have a need for a specific part. So we'll just pick a fun part, talk about an old part, OPA 330. We're completely stocked out. There's no parts available on our website. But I'm desperate for these parts. So how that worked during the chip shortage was people were logging into our website every minute, honestly, they were botting our site. Lots of resellers were botting our site, just looking for inventory, constantly hitting us over and over and over and over again. But how this works instead is a customer can come to us and say, I need 10,000 pieces of the OPA 330, and then as soon as we will stock that up, we actually send them a push notification. So if you think about how cool that is, when we have in our PDC, we ship a box of completed parts to our PDC. The PDC worker sits there and scans that in. As soon as that scanner hits and it hits our inventory, we can send a message to our customers. And so with APIs, we're talking milliseconds. So within a few milliseconds, it goes from scanned to the customer having access. Now, if the customer's bought in on APIs, they've got their webhook set up, they could actually automate ordering. And so if you think about how cool that is, that part could go from scanned to purchased in milliseconds. And that's the power of these APIs and how cool they can become. So if we get back into the chip shortage, when everybody's desperate for parts, the fastest ones are going to win. And that's how all of this is going to work. And we want to enable our customers to be able to make those decisions and get that inventory as fast as possible. So that's what's cool about the push. So advanced ship notice, that's our tracking information. We can also set that up in a push notification. So similar to if you purchase something on Amazon or whatever, you get that email that says, oh, your part's been shipped. Here's your tracking information. Same thing. So the customer can either ask us, hey, where's my shipping? Or we can just proactively send that. And then also financial documents like invoicing. So many of our customers today, they do vast majority of all of this via email. So they'll get an email from somebody with an invoice, and then there's a person sitting at the customer that's actually typing that invoice in to their system. So we get rid of the need for that, all of that manual interaction. So that's our TI Store suite. Then we've got our Backlog API suite, which we just released about 1 month ago. So that is the ability for our customers via API to place orders out in time. And so a couple cool parts of this Backlog API suite is one, quoting. So I can't remember who it was, but somebody here was talking about sales team and their reaction to quote APIs. I think it was you, right? Yeah. So we've had that same exact reception. Whenever I talk with the sales team about, hey, we've got APIs, they're so cool, they're like, but I want my customer to come to me because I want to be right in the middle of it. And then when we go to customers and we talk to them, they're like, no, get the salespeople out of here. I'm an engineer. I don't want to talk to anybody. So this quote API is going to be a really cool new feature where essentially our customers can come to us and say, hey, I need 1 million of these. What's my price? They'll get their price, then they can place an order. There's no need to have a discussion. There's no need for Excel files to be exchanged back and forth. So that's going to be great. So that's our quote. Then our order management. So we've got a lot of the just kind of standard order create, all of that. But if you look, I think it's the 4th bullet down. We've got push, ESD, and RSDs. So why that is so great is if you zoom back in time and you look at the chip shortage. So ESD, let me just explain that for everybody. That's estimated ship date. So when you place an order with TI, what you get back from us is an ESD, an estimated ship date. Now, we strive to hit all of our ESDs, but we are not perfect. We used to, like back in the early days of my career, we were always at 95 plus ESD commitments. In the last few years, we dropped way down in the 50s. So if we're not going to meet our ESD, we will then send you an RSD, which is a reschedule date. So, but whenever we have a reschedule date, we actually cannot send that to the customer because of how EDI works. So it becomes a very challenging situation to where we can't even tell the customer we're not going to meet our commitments anymore. So the APIs will solve that. We will be able to proactively tell our customers, hey, granted, hopefully we don't have a lot of RSDs, but if we do, we can actually proactively tell our customers. Or take it further. What about updated deliveries? What if we can ship on time, but a carrier loses the package along the way? So we in the background are getting connected via API with our carriers, then we can pass that information on to our customers. And we can give them real-time updates of like, what's happening, where's my part? Because we've had so many issues in the past where we don't know how to even tell our customers, hey, we can't ship you your parts because we dropped it off at the carrier, but it's just sitting at the carrier's done nothing, right? So we want to automate that supply chain so that we get that data fed to our customers as fast as possible. So that's another really great feature of that push API. Then we've got advanced shipment notice, which is the same, retrieve or push, financial document for invoicing, and then remittance, which we love because we like to get paid. So that's our ordering, and right, what's our strategy around placing orders? And that's great because we love money. We like taking money from our customers. That's wonderful. But information is actually probably more powerful than the orders. So I'll talk a little bit about our informational APIs. And this is where I see like the data and the transformation of all of our customers and where we're going becoming really, really cool. So we have today available a product information API. We have out there selected parametric information, quality, commercial details. We plan this year to expand that. We have a ton of attributes for all of our parts. Somebody told me once like 150 attributes per part. So it's crazy. So we want to basically make that information public to everyone. So if you're a customer, you're a distributor, you're an aggregator, whoever you are, we want to make our part information available. And whenever you've got that part information, you can start to make decisions really quickly. So let's talk about lead time. So we have lead time in our product information API. So if you track lead time over, a span of time, and let's say it's 8 weeks, 8 weeks, 8 weeks, 8 weeks, and then all of a sudden it jumps up to 16 weeks. Okay, that's an indication of something that's happening. So then a customer of ours could then go have a conversation with somebody, build an alert into their system that says, hey, the TI's lead time just doubled. Maybe we should go place some more orders, or maybe we should go make another decision, or go figure something out. So the power that data puts in the hands of our customers is really the most powerful piece. And we have actually, since we released our product information API, which is just 1 year ago, we have over 1 billion API calls. So it is our most used informational data, is the most transacted information that we have with our customers, which is pretty cool. So next is our cross-reference API. So cross-reference API is if you've got a competitor part that maybe you can't get access to, or there's a shortage on it, you can send that information to us, and we will say, here's the TI alternate, and this is how close it is to the competitor part number. Is it an exact match, or is it, close, right? So the customer can figure out, like, okay, how much engineering work do I have to do to figure out to get this on my AVL? And then it also does TI to TI alternates. So let's say you've got a shortage on a TI part, but it's like the most highest end spec'd version, and maybe you could survive with like a lower temperature threshold or lower input voltage, whatever it may be. We will give you, here's the TI alternate, and here's all the differences between. And then if you think about how that can get integrated across the rest of the suite, let's say a customer was to come to us and say, here's all these parts that I'm interested in. We can say, okay, here's your alternate. Now let's say they're connected to our quote API. They can then get a quote for the part. And then let's say they need the part tomorrow. They're connected to our TI store API. They place an order and they've got it the next day. So you can go from shortage to actually having the parts in your manufacturing factory within a couple of days. So that's the power that we see with these. So parametric API is a big focus for our expansion for this year. Quality API is another one. So quality is huge. So it's not only quality information, but it's also, are you guys familiar with the PCN process, or product change notification? I see a lot of shaking of heads. So if you don't know what that is, let's say TI manufactures a part in Malaysia, and then we want to also manufacture it in Chengdu. We would issue a PCN and say, hey, there's a little bit of change in this part, but it functionally will work the same, is essentially how that works. So we send these PCNs to all of our customers. And the way that works today is it's an email list. So we just send it out to an email list, and hopefully our customers get it. If they get it, cool. If they don't, too bad. We make the change and we move on. So if we can automate that with an API, then the customer could be able to get access to our PCN information. Let's say they want samples. They can get a sample of the part. Then they can feel comfortable with our new supply chain. Another one is PPAPs. So if you're in the automotive world, PPAPs are super important. And that's just like talking about all of the specifications of the part. We can automate that through an API as well. So when you think about quality and all of that informational, that becomes super powerful for our customers to make decisions, to enable them to be more efficient, and then ultimately, of course, place more orders with us. So this is our kind of roadmap and our strategy around APIs. So how can they all work together? So product information API, I talked about this a little bit. You get the information that you need. Then if you want samples or if you want immediately available inventory, go to the store. And then if you can load, you can wait, you can load your future orders, and you can manage your backlog. So that's how this ecosystem all will continue to work together. So how to get connected. So the journey to get connected starts on ti.com/API. Myself and my team built that site, so I always like to plug that one first. So journey starts there, but then this is a self-service journey that we intentionally built for our customers so that we don't actually have to hand-hold them through that onboarding journey. Because as we found in years past, whenever we connect with an EDI customer, it takes us on average 60 days to get a connection set up. That is way too much time. And there is a ton of headcount within TI and within our customers to do that, to go through that 60-day process, which requires a ton of testing. We've got to get all of our mappings correct. And then there's also run maintain work. So we also have people fully employed just doing EDI run maintain. So we basically did a total transformation. We're changing the onboarding. We're making it all self-service for our customers, and we want to make it easy for them to just get connected with us. So we do all of this through our website. So the first key component of this is called a MyTI company account. So in order to get access to our APIs, our customers have to have a MyTI company account. And we're going to continue to build and build and build on our MyTI company account because that's going to become the place, the MyTI dashboard, where we service a ton of information up to our customers. So MyTI company account, and then they will set up their checkout profile. So what is a checkout profile? Essentially, what are all your sold to, ship to, pay information? They type that all in. Then they get their API key. Then they're off to the journey of system setup, testing, which we put all of our documentation on our API portal so that the customer can do it for themselves. With ideally as few interaction as possible from us. Obviously, because some customers need help and we're happy to help them and we have help set up for them. But our goal is to make this entire journey self-service for the customer. And if we can have a customer go from beginning to end without having to talk to us at all, that's a complete success. So the MyTI company account is kind of the foundation of how all of this will work. All of this self-service journey will work for us. So MyTI has been through a big transformation over the years. So if anybody's logged into ti.com before, especially if you want to go find our inventory, you have to have a login. So where we began is everybody having their own login. So everybody's got their TI account. Then we've moved to the journey of company accounts, which is corporations can come together and pull their groups together underneath them. So if we think about David, right? So David can log into his MyTI company account and he could put all of his buyers in the company account. And then what becomes really interesting is then David can look across all of his buyers' activity and see what parts are they ordering, what payment method are they using. One that seems to be important to our customers is like some certain buyer continues to use a credit card, and we don't want them to use that credit card. But David would be able to observe that and look across the entire company account and aggregate all that data together. So the next turn of the screw is the MyTI company account with a super admin. So I'll just keep using David as the example. So if we make David the super admin of Sonic, then David would be able to then manage his line of credit. So he would be able to see within his MyTI dashboard, how much line of credit do I have? How much have I used? And then if he's got unused funds, he could apply that. And then also he could take a look at all of his backlog orders, and then he could do whatever data analysis he wants there. And then if you think about like the business analytics that we could add to these dashboards and what we could do for our customers there, that's really where things start to get cool. And then also we can connect with our engineers through our website. So Let's say there's an engineer working on a project. They build out a list of parts or list of devices that they're interested in. Then they could, through the website, not through a phone call, their salesperson could interact with them. And then the salesperson could say, hey, you're using this really old part. Don't use that one. Use another one. And then all of that can get done through our website without two people having to talk to each other. So the MyTI company account is really like a foundation of how all of this is going to work together. So support. So this is always a fun one because people will have questions along the journey, even though we would love for them to be able to do it completely on their own. So we have CSC, which stands for our Customer Support Center. So that is a team of hundreds of people that we've employed to answer frequent questions that customers have. And then for technical debugging, we have an E2E, which stands for Engineer to Engineer. And we have had the E2E for many, many years, 20 plus years, for all of our devices, for engineers to have device level questions. And what we've added is API engineers in the background. So whenever IT people or Weaver or whomever has a question, they submit an E2E ticket, and then they're talking to our API engineers directly. And then all of that information then becomes searchable by other customers. So then some customers could go out there and see, okay, Wilmer just submitted a post that's got my exact same question. Let me go answer that for myself. So that's great. And then once you go live, the CSC comes back into play. We've got our API developer portal with all of our information readily available, step-by-step guides, training videos, all of that, and FAQs. So we would try to put as much information out there as we can. So that's our API strategy and TI overall. So as the API queen, as I've been called, myself and my team, we go out, we try to sell these APIs to our customers. So this is a gross oversimplification, but just to give you an idea, we typically see two major customer groups. The first one are the ones who get it, the David Ginsburgs of the world. We love those meetings. They're so fun. We have those meetings with folks that are really, they get it. They see it, and we're like, oh, this is so much fun. We're kind of selling each other. We're both in. Those are great, but those are few and far between. Then the others are people completely unfamiliar with APIs. They're like, what's an API? How do you spell that? So typically what we hear from that group two is a few different common themes. It's too much IT investment, right? I don't have an IT team. That could be one. I don't even have an IT team. My ERP is too customized, so it's on the complete other end of the spectrum. I don't need that connection right now. That's a frequent one. We try to remind them, hey, remember that market cycle we just went through? We're probably going to go through another one. But they don't have the foresight. And then I use EDI with all my other suppliers. Why would I do something different for you, TI? So as we go through each of these scenarios, we've got to figure out what is the problem that this customer is trying to solve, or what is a problem that the customer is trying to solve within their organization, because maybe they don't see the same thing that the rest of us see. So what we have to do is we've got to get access to a different level of management within the customer, typically how we solve that problem. So too much of an IT investment. Let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, so it's too much of an IT investment. What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? And maybe I'm talking to like a key VP of procurement at the customer. And maybe they're like, I've got headcount pressure. Okay, you've got headcount pressure. Let's talk about that. And now APIs are not a headcount reduction, but they're a way that you can make your headcount a lot more efficient. So then we kind of start talking about like, hey, this is what let's talk through the scenario of how we can make your process a lot better. Then we get them into a place of understanding and not just, that's going to be $1 million IT investment. So the next one, I don't have an IT team. So that one's a tough one, but we do have third parties like OrbWeaver that we can recommend and have our customers go talk to. But also you could actually interact with an API with an Excel sheet. I've done it before. So you don't have to have a super advanced IT team. You can have just a simple off-the-shelf MRP or even just an Excel file, and you can actually integrate the APIs straight to that. And we have a demo of an Excel that will do that to help inspire the customers and help them see what this could look like for them. Now, my ERP is too customized. That's a tough one. We hear that a lot with one specific ERP company. I'm guessing everybody knows who it is. And their business model is so smart because they highly customize their ERP for all of their customers. And then anytime their customers need help, they've got to pay them more to get connected, right? So this one is actually interesting because those types of companies that say that, they are actually more technologically advanced and they have the IT team to do all of this work. They just don't have the motivation. Because if they've got a customized ERP, they could integrate with an API in seconds, right? Or in days. Now, they've probably got 30 sites across the world and then they're going to have to figure all that out, but they could probably manage it. So that's when you really have to get access to that top level of the company to where you're trying to help them accomplish their goals for the year, because otherwise you will never get it when you're talking to the first line of defense. You're talking with a buyer or you're talking with a procurement manager. You got to go way, way up. I don't need that connection right now. Some of these customers we move on from, but some of them we try to help them understand that, hey, this market cycle is going to happen again. And if you don't have the easy button for TI and you come to me and you say, I'm desperate for parts, I need it really, really bad, we're going to say, sorry, get connected. Do you want to do that now or do you want to do that later? So we try to help them understand. Sometimes they never understand, and that's fine. We'll get through that with them whenever the market changes. I use EDI with all my other suppliers. This is one of my favorite ones because people are like, but EDI is more standardized and EDI is better. And so we actually built a whole slide deck on why EDI sucks and why API is great. But it's like, oh, do you like when you place orders and you never hear anything back? You never get an acknowledgement and you have no idea what you're going to hear? Because that's EDI. But with API, you would get an instantaneous response. And they were like, oh, yeah, that's true. That would be nice. Okay, cool. And then it's like, oh, and you know how every time you want to change one sold to, we have to spend 2 weeks making that change? We wouldn't have to do that anymore, right? So we kind of help people understand, because I think the key issue with the customers that say this, they don't get it. They don't get the difference between API and EDI. Granted, they are essentially the same thing. It's just that API is a lot better, faster. But I get this one a lot. One of our analogies that we like to use for EDI versus API, just because it's fun, is EDI is like sending a piece of mail, right? You have to write your return address correctly. If you get that wrong, it won't work. You got to write the name, you've got to write the city, you've got to write the address. And if you get any piece of that wrong, it won't work. You've got to put the stamp in the right place, okay? Then you put it out, and guess what? You have to wait. You got to wait for the mailman to come pick it up. That's the same with EDI because it's batched, right? So it's not real time. Now, API is like texting. It's like, hey, do you have my parts? Yep, I got them. And then guess what you can also do with an API that you can't with EDI? You can text each other at the exact same time, and nothing's going to happen. You're not going to bounce off of each other, right? And so when we kind of help educate our customers on here's all of the reasons why API is better, it helps. But I think so TI is specifically, at least from like a vendor perspective, we are early in this journey, which is a privilege, but it's also a burden. Because we go to our customers and they have no clue what we're talking about. And so we have to bring them along, and we know that our competitors are just right behind us and they're going to get to have that. They're following in that Peloton wave of we cut the wind for them, and then it's going to be a lot easier. But it's a privilege and it's a burden at the same time. More. And that's what's really fascinating. So there's a couple different things there. So our TI Store API suite has been available for 1 year. We've got roughly 1,000 customers on it. Now, TI has a lot of customers, so that's not a big number for us. But we're going to continue to expand that. The backlog API we've had for 1 month, and I think we've got about 30 customers. But 30 customers in 1 month is not bad. So what we tend to see is the ones that get integrated with all of it, they buy more. So we actually did an interview with a buyer in Taiwan. So the buyer's job is just to place orders all freaking day long. That's all they do. They just sit there and click buttons. Guess what what are they motivated by? They want to go home. I want to go home early today. I want to get my work done. And so that buyer, if they have the easy button to place an order, they're going to do it. Now, they're also measured on cost. So we have to make sure our costs are good and all of that, right? But if we make an easy button for the buyer, they're just going to click that button because they want to go home, right? But the buyer that wants to go home is not the one making the decision to put the API in there, right? That's decided somewhere else in a boardroom, conference room, whatever. But if we can make the buyer's life easier, they just keep clicking buy. And that's what we want to get to. So we have a long story of TI.com, and then we built a store that we attached to TI.com. And then we had the bright idea of APIs. And it's actually funny, like David was involved in some of those initial discovery meetings to try to figure out, well, what are we going to go do? So then we built our TI Store API. And the first version of our API was still not that great. It wasn't that bad, but it wasn't that great. And the onboarding journey was still that 60-day process. And so what we did was we were like, let's scrap that entire thing. Let's fix the onboarding journey. And then we were able to get customers connected in days. So we went from 60 days to 2 days to get a customer all the way from saying, I want an API, to placing their first order. And so then we had some other folks in the company come to our team and say, how the heck did you go do that? We want more backlog customers, and we want to do it like you did it over here. And so what they then did was they challenged us, go build a backlog API, and let's use the onboarding infrastructure that you guys just built so that we can get our backlog customers onboarded as fast as possible. So that's the work that we did in 2023, was building all of that infrastructure. And it's quite hard. As we had talked about this morning in the sessions, you need leadership level alignment. But we had our CEO was bought in. This was like a company level initiative where we were changing the way that people are going to be doing their jobs, which can make a lot of people really, really uncomfortable. Because we just released it in December, and so basically the 2 months leading up to that was just everybody freaking out constantly, which was fun. Fun for us. We were like the people standing up there getting shot out the whole time. Like, we can't do that. No, it's not possible. No, yeah. And we're like, we know the vision. We know the strategy. We're just going to operate to it. So we're in the process of rolling that backlog API out to more customers. And my team is responsible for getting as many customers on it as we can in 2024. Ooh, bad actors. That's a fun one. Okay, so our store channel, API and TI.com. Right before the pandemic, I was in a different role. Then during the pandemic, I joined this team, which was a fun time. It was crazy, but it was fun. And I always heard people saying we have bad actors, but I didn't know what it meant until I got into the team. And then I was like, oh, wow, it is bad. If you get down to the root cause of the reason why, there is a lot of money to be made. A lot of money to be made. Because we have had many resellers go to our website, buy up our parts, and mark them up 20 times. And so you can make $1 million, multi-million-dollar business if you just do that a couple times. Sometimes I actually kick myself, like, why did I not quit TI and go spin up one of these companies? I could be a millionaire right now. But so people are like defrauding themselves. And as soon as you try to shut them down, 1,000 more arrive. Our high-level philosophy on it is don't try to stop them on the front end, stop them on the back end. because as soon as you find the squeeze point, it's like a balloon. You squeeze them here, it goes up somewhere else. And it's so easy to spin up domains, and it's so easy to spin up new accounts, that that's not effective. So don't even try to do that. Just focus on back-end controls. That's our high-level philosophy. There's nothing else? Thanks, guys.